Hi, I'm Jeff Murrow. I want to welcome you to True Texas History. Well, yesterday I talked about an incident where there was a gunfight between Texas Rangers and some bandits. Um, I realized I had never talked about the Cordova Rebellion, and I needed to go ahead and explain the Cordova Rebellion and where that fits into everything. Um, Now, the Cordova Rebellion, um, let me go ahead and give you a little background. Vicente Cordova was there in the Nacogdoches area. In fact, he had served as alcalde and held several government positions. And while in that role, he maintained his policy to have good relations with the Indians. So he went ahead and developed good relations with the Indians in the area. Unfortunately, he was using that as a way of stirring up trouble for the Texans. And I hinted at some of that yesterday because the original plan was to have them rise up against the colonists and do away with them once and for all. Now, the plan didn't work because the Mexican forces in San Antonio were defeated, but Cordova went ahead and continued with his plan and developed those relations. Now, he was working with two of the tribes, the Kickapoos and the Cherokees. Now, the Kickapoos were willing to go with him. Now, you may be scratching your head and say, who were the Kickapoo Indians and why were they in Texas? Well, the Kickapoos were a tribe well acquainted with fighting. In fact, they had fought way up in the Northeast in King Pontiac's War. The Kickapoos were major players there. And after a lot of the activity with Chief Pontiac, they worked their way down to Texas, and they were still willing to go ahead and go to war. Now, one of the reasons the Indian tribes were willing to go to war is the young Republic of Texas government was not willing to approve all the land claims made by the Indian residents of the state. The Mexican government was willing to approve them because many of these land claims came in when it was still Mexico and had not been approved by the Republic of Texas government. And so, from the Indians' perspective, they viewed Cordova's offer as a good one because this was a way that they could go ahead and claim the land that they felt was originally theirs. Well, that's what it looks like on the surface. Now, bear in mind, I mentioned yesterday that Cordova had often acted as an agent for Filasola, who was Santa Anna's second in command. Now, Filasola originally wanted the East Texas land grant for him to be the ayuntamiento or the main person in charge of it, much like Stephen F. Austin had a land grant and several of the other personalities had land grants. And Filasola had wanted that one, and so he was secretly wanting to reclaim that land grant and was using Cordova as a way to go ahead and facilitate that. Now, the Cordova Rebellion took place in 1838, in the early days of the Republic. Now, bear in mind that although the Republic of Texas government didn't want to okay the land grants to the Indians, this was a point of contention with President Houston because Houston was insistent to go ahead and give it to the Indians. The legislators said, no, we're not going to give it to the Indians. And the local settlers there started picking up whiffs of trouble. There was a series of break-ins going on in the community, and then some of the locals were on their way to town, and they had been fired upon by a group of Mexicans, and they thought, gee, that's awfully unusual. There's a bunch of Mexicans out there shooting at us. And this alerted the local alcalde, and at that point it was Thomas J. Rusk. And Rusk had fought with Houston's army, so he was an experienced military man. He went ahead and decided to investigate and see what's going on, and come to find out, Cordova was there with a party of 100 armed Mexicans, and they were on their way to meet up with the Indians. And this group had decided to proclaim their public disloyalty to the Republic of Texas because they wanted to remain loyal to Mexico, and they felt as though it was their right to do so. Now, when this matter was brought to President Houston's attention, his answer was, let's just go ahead and say it's illegal to have firearms, and if you're armed, you need to, give up your arms and head on back. Almost like some politicians these days. And that was his solution to the Cordova Rebellion. It didn't settle the rebellion. Gun control never does. And eventually, a group of armed men had to go out and put down the rebellion. Now, at the time that they put it down, it was mainly just Mexican citizens along with Kickapoo Indians. The Cherokees were thinking about joining, but they officially had not joined, at least as far as the authorities. Now, the authorities went and questioned the chief of the Cherokees, who was Chief Red Diwali, and he denied any involvement in the uprising. They went ahead and let him off since he was friends with President Houston, but they were highly suspicious of him. They didn't feel real good about it. Their gut instinct said, hey, this is not, something's not right here. And eventually that proved to be the case, and there was, and that led to the war with the Cherokees that developed later on. But Cordova's rebellion was the start of that. Now, Cordova managed to escape. He made it down to Mexico, and he had been involved in one or two other shootouts along the way. He did hook up with Adrian Woll and came back into Texas with the invasion that Woll conducted in 1842 that recaptured San Antonio for a brief period of time. Cordova was eventually killed in the Battle of Saltillo shortly after that, as Woll and his men were on their way back to Mexico. But this will give you a rundown of the Cordova Rebellion to help you understand, because it was very intertwined with the Indian relations with both the Cherokees and the Kickapoos. This is one that involved the policies of President Houston versus the policies of the Republic of Texas Congress. So much like you've heard the term perfect storm, there were a lot of forces at work, and they all converged with the Cordova Rebellion. Well, I hope that this helps settle things for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll be glad to get to them. Thank you for tuning in, and hope you make it through the storms and the bad weather that's going on. And until next time, vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.